Yeah, I think one of the big concerns for China is who Trump is going to stack around him. With your ear to the ground over in D.C., do you have any sense of what the composition of that administration is going to look like as far as working on specifically China? Because there seems to be a lot of fear about, a potential Bob Lighthizer back in a sort of commerce position or something, particularly when he pulls on those strings like export controls.
Well, I think Lighthizer back in, which seems almost certain, is actually not the worst case scenario for China, in the sense that former ambassador and probably likely Secretary Lighthizer has always been willing to make deals. Whereas there's a difference between people around Trump who are either saying, we want to go after China because we feel China is totally unfair to the U.S. economically. And then there are people around Trump who say, we want to go after China because the Chinese Communist Party is evil and we want to weaken them. And these are not two strictly different camps, but they matter in degree. And so the discussion is going to be how much you're trying to weaken China economically at whatever cost to the U.S. versus how much you're trying to improve the U.S. economic relationship vis-a-vis China, but admitting that there's still an ongoing relationship. They probably will agree with Congress on removing what's called China PNTR, permanent normal trade relations, which, as a recent Peterson Institute study has shown, would be quite harmful to the U.S. But I think that's a direction they're likely to go. And the tariffs will go up, no question.
So, Adam, with Lighthizer, I think, more likely commerce than USTR. But obviously, with somebody like Lighthizer, it really actually doesn't matter what portfolio he has, as long as he's got the ear of the president. What I want to know is, Trump is a tariff president. Lighthizer is known for tariffs as well. What happens to industrial policy? Because under the Biden administration, obviously, yes, there were tariffs, kind of, right, but it was more about industrial policy under Raimondo and security supply chains, etc. In Trump 2.0, are we going to get both tracks, industrial policy and tariffs, almost supercharged?
Well, I think you're going to see what you already saw with Biden, which was Trump put in all these tariffs. Biden didn't take off essentially any and added a few. Biden put in all this industrial policy. Trump just recently, presumptive Speaker Johnson said they'd like to roll it back. But given how well they did in the Midwestern states, I'm not sure they're going to want to do that. So they'll probably try to reinterpret it so they can spread the money a little differently than the Biden and the congressional legislation currently reads. But I don't think they're going to roll it back. I do think there'll be much more action on the tariff front expanding rather than industrial policy expanding. So again, it's the mirror image of Biden, where they left the tariffs in place, but they increased the industrial policy. I think with Trump, they'll leave it mostly in place. They'll change the allocation, and then they'll mostly do tariffs.